We praise Yah, we praise Yah. Yah, He is and always will be our King, and we will praise Him, and we will serve Him. You know we need Him, and yes, we love Him. Yah, He's alive, forever lives, watching you and me. Yes, He is. Yah, He's alive, forever lives, watching you and me. Yes, He is. Oh, yes, He reigns. You know He does. Shout aloud, tell the world you know Jehovah. Yes, He reigns. Oh, yes, He reigns. You know He does. Shout aloud, tell the world you know Jehovah. Yes, He reigns. We praise Yah, we praise Yah. Yah, He is and always will be our King, and we will praise Him, and we will serve Him. You know we need Him, and yes, we love Him. Yah, He's alive, forever lives, watching you and me. Yes, He is. Yah, He's alive, forever lives, watching you and me. Yes, He is. Oh, yes, He reigns. You know He does. Shout aloud, tell the world you know Jehovah. Yes, He reigns. Oh, yes, He reigns. You know He does. Shout aloud, tell the world you know Jehovah. Yes, He reigns. We praise Yah, we praise Yah. Jehovah King, Yah, He is and always will be our King, and we will praise Him, and we will serve Him. You know we need Him, and yes, we love Him. Yah, He's alive, forever lives, watching you and me. Yes, He is. Yah, He's alive, forever lives, watching you and me. Yes, He is. Oh, yes, He reigns. Yes, He reigns. You know He does. Shout aloud, tell the world you know Yahweh. Yes, He reigns. Oh, yes, He reigns. You know He does. Shout aloud, tell the world you know Yahweh. Yes, He reigns.
My name is Cohen Michael Ben Levi of the Hebrew family of Guyana. The aim of these dissertations is to cause the true house of Israel, who have been without knowledge of themselves for countless generations, and who are now being awakened by the God of the universe, to better serve our Creator. It is our hope that by reacquainting this awakening black nation with their laws and former history, it will hasten our return to our true identity, thereby acknowledging our ancient ancestors. This in turn will allow us to know our Father's God and prepare us to stand together to meet the terrible day of the Creator that He is now readying for all mankind. May He cause all your minds and hearts to understand. Zoraim Tovlikim, I hope that song brought you peace of mind and peace of spirit. At this time, I'd like to bring before you some African history. This history will clearly be known as African history when we look at the timeline. The timeline of the history that we're looking at is about 1,400 years before the Christian era, before Greece or Rome had risen 1,400 years, 1,400 years earlier. In Africa, this history took place. This was exactly the time of the book of the Judges, shortly after the death of Joshua. Our people in Africa had various nations around us that were in the land of Canaan or Canaan. And we were there trying to settle in the promised land, also known as the land of Israel today. This history took place, as I said, in the countries of Jordan and Israel. It's somewhat, in some ways, some might consider it a love story, but it has a lot of lessons and messages in it for us all. So let us begin at this time listening to the book of Ruth. Many people call it the book of Ruth with a TH, but in Hebrew, it's the word Ruth. And this person, a Moabite, a non-Israelite woman, is actually the person that we would call the main character in the story. Anytime you read a story, this is 4 chapters, just a little synopsis of history or an event that took place among our people in the land of Israel 1,400 years ago. And it's very interesting. It's also a history that takes place in this very season, because all around the world, Israelites are observing what is known as the Feast of Weeks. It's a grain and barley and a corn and harvest season. And we'll learn much, I'm sure, from the lessons that the Creator has for us in this book that's included in the Holy Scriptures, the Old Testament. In chapter 1, verse 1, we find these words.
The book of Ruth, chapter 1, verse 1. And it came to pass in the days when the judges judged that there was a famine in the land. And a certain man of Bethlehem in Judah went to sojourn in the field of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. And the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi, and the name of his 2 sons Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem in Judah. And they came into the field of Moab.
Let me just say this before they went into the field. Let's understand their names. This is part of what lets us know that these are African people and in Africa. The man's name is Elimelech. Eli means my God, my power, Melech, king. So his name means my power is king. His wife, in the spelling, you would think her name is Naomi, but if you look in the Hebrew language, you'll find out that her name is really Naomi, which means pleasant. And she is, again, married to Elimelech, as we've just heard. And listen to the names, Makalon, not Malon. Usually when you see a hey in a word in Hebrew, look in the Hebrew language, it's probably a ket. And so his name is Makalon. So when you look at the meaning of his word, the meaning of the word Makalon, it comes from kala. And that's why I say it's very important to know the names that you give to your children. This man's name is Sickly. And that's not a good name to give to a child. It might play out that way sometimes. And then the brother called Chilion, they call him Chilion in English. That's how they change up. We never get the accuracy of the Bible in the Old Testament. It's translated most times incorrectly. And his name means to pine away, to vanish, and destruction. I would never name a child nothing like that. And then again, remember, Haknaani, which is the Canaanite language, is the same language that we spoke in Ivrit, So it might have been a different meaning, but I'm translating it from the Hebrew language. So we have Elimelech, my power is king, Naomi, his wife. They've just left Bethlehem of Judah because of a famine, and his wife Naomi and their two sons. The family is going to a place where they can get more bread. Many of us can relate to that today because people are traveling to be in a better place somewhere on the planet. It goes on to say,
continued there. And Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left and her two sons. And they took them wives of the women of Moab. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth. And they dwelt there about 10 years.
and let's break down their names. You know, I remember Cohen Levy teaching this portion years ago, and I hope he's correct because I don't want Oprah Winfrey to hear what I'm about to say and be inaccurate. He told us, he said that Oprah's parents wanted to name her Orpah, but they misspelled the word and they put it Oprah. And so Oprah Winfrey's name became Oprah Winfrey instead of Orpah. She was named after this woman right in here, one of the daughter-in-laws of Naomi, and of course Ruth. And of course, they have now married her two sons. She just had a death. That's how it is in life sometimes. Something bad happens, then something good happens, then sometimes something bad again can happen. Let's see what this episode of history brings before us.
And Mahlon and Chilion died, both of them, and the woman was left of her two children and of her husband.
You know, that's a sad situation. She has lost her husband, Naomi or Naomi. And Naomi, after that, her sons married two women of Moab, Orpah, and of course, Ruth, or Ruth, as many people call her. And of course, the two sons died also. This woman has lost everything in a short time. And she went there to do better. And look at how things turned out. It goes on to say,
Then she arose with her daughters-in-law, that she might return from the field of Moab, how that Jehovah had remembered his people in giving them bread. And she went forth out of the place where she was, and her two daughters-in-laws with her. And they went on the way to return into the land of Judah. And Naomi said unto her daughters-in-law, Go, return each of you to your mother's house. Jehovah deal kindly with you, as ye have dealt with the dead and with me. Jehovah grant you that ye may find rest, each of you.
she wanted, this mother-in-law, Naomi, wanted her two daughter-in-laws not to follow her to go back to Bethlehem and Judah. And I hope you can see the beautiful land of Bethlehem called Bethlehem. See, that's again another change. It's a big, a far distance between Bethlehem, which means a house of bread, and ironically, they didn't have any bread because they were in a famine. And so again, names and words sometimes can be very strange. I remember a student I had, his name was Angel. That was the baddest student in the whole class. But I'm just saying to you, it's just strange how names can play out in people's lives. Naomi now has decided to go back home. She's had only bad experiences from this travel to Jordan, because the field of Moab, in fact, if you ever go to the land of Israel and you are down at the live sea, people call it the Dead Sea, you can see Jordan right over on the other side of the live sea. And so I'm showing you, it wasn't a long distance you had to go to the field of Moab, but it's really actually another country that she traveled to, but it's a very close country. Their borders are joined. It goes on to say,
In the house of her husband. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept. And they said unto her, Nay, but we will return with thee unto thy people. And Naomi said, Turn back, my daughters. Why will ye go with me? Have I yet sons in my womb, that they may be your husbands? Turn back, my daughters. Go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say, I have hope, should I even have a husband tonight, and also bear sons? Would ye tarry for them till they were grown? Would ye shut yourselves off for them and have no husbands? Nay, my daughters, for it is grieveth me much for your sakes. For the hand of Jehovah is gone forth against me. And they lifted up their voices and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother in law, but Ruth cleaved unto her.
Yeah,
And she said,
Orpah said, Shalom Aleichem, Ima. I get the message. In other words, Orpah decided her mother-in-law was right. She listened to her. She said, look, I'm too old to get a husband now. And even if I should be so lucky to find one tonight, will you wait until that boy grows up and then you find out that you have to wait? Will you not be with a man until those boys grow up? She said, look, be wise. Go. God, bless you. And I hope you find a husband and give you rest and happiness. And of course, Orpah said, Ima, I love you. Shalom, God bless you and be with you too. But seems to be a different relationship with Ruth. Ruth doesn't want to leave her. It seems as though they bonded in a very deep manner. And we'll probably see and understand it as this history continues.
Behold, thy sister in law is gone back unto her people and unto her God. Return thou after thy sister in law. And Ruth said, Entreat me not to leave thee, and to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go, and where thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy Elohim my Elohim.
Now you
Where
I'm saying,
thou diest, will I die, and there will I be buried. Jehovah do so to me, and more also, if aught but death part thee and me.
this daughter is saying, I am not leaving you. The only thing will part us is death. She says, where you go, I will go. That's what Ruth said to her. Ruth said, where you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your Elohim, your power, my power. She said, Ima, Naomi, where you die, I'm going to die there at the same time. I'm going to die there also. I'm not going to leave you, and there will I be buried. The only thing that's going to separate us is death. And Naomi realized by her sincere words, and you know, I was told as a child, honesty is the best policy. And Naomi was honest with them, the two daughters, and Ruth is being honest with her mother-in-law. She's not only embraced her, but it seems as though she's embraced the culture of Hebrews, the God of Hebrews, the power of Israel. And let's see how Yah rewards her for this. This history, as we'll see now, takes place during the same season that Israelites are observing all around the world called Chag Shavuot. It's a wheat harvest season that's held yearly in the land of Israel. It starts in chapter 2, verse 1, and it says,
And when she saw that she was steadfastly minded to go with her, she left off speaking unto her. So they two went until they came to Bethlehem. And it came to pass, when they were both come to Bethlehem, that all the city was astir concerning them. And the women said,
you know,
Is this not
she just got to Bethlehem. She's been away for some time. She comes back alone. And you know how women are, because if you read it in Hebrew, it says we're amarna, which means that it was women that were speaking to her. And they asked her and they wanted to know, well, how you doing? And you know, when the word got around, other sisters started coming, saying, oh, Naomi's back. Naomi's in town, and she has a daughter-in-law with her, and she's a Moabitess. That'll get women to come to look just alone. You mean Machlon and Kilion married a Moabite? Oh, yes. So everybody's excited about seeing her and hearing what has happened.
him? And the woman said, Is this Naomi? And she said unto them, Call me not
Call
Naomi,
me pleasant,
call me Mara,
call me bitter.
for the Almighty hath dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full, and Jehovah hath brought me back home empty. Why call ye me Naomi,
I left there
seeing your
with a husband and two sons, and I've come back empty. And you're calling me pleasant by my name, Naomi? No, my name is not Naomi. My name is Mara, bitter. I'm bitter inside because of the heavy hand of Yah, she says, that has been in my life.
Jehovah had testified against me, and the Almighty have afflicted me. So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, with her, who returned out of the field of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem in the beginning of barley
Yeah,
harvest.
Bethlehem, everybody knows it. That's not in Europe. This is the African history. And it's the history of black people that left Israel, brought from West Africa, where we ran running from the Creator and running from the punishment that He said that would overtake us because of our evil doings. And we end up in West Africa, where we were brought by slave ships to the Western Hemisphere. And so we see now that our sister Naomi and her daughter-in-law Ruth, they are now trying to resettle in Bethlehem, the territory of Yehuda, called Judah in English. So this is in the land of Judah. So now and again, if this is Africa, there are no European Jews at this time. It means that you must know and understand this is history of people of color. It goes on to say.
Chapter 2. And Naomi
We
had a
continue in
kinsman of
chapter
her
2.
husbands, a
Just slight technical difficulty. Hopefully he'll be right back with us.
mighty man of valor, of the family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabitess said unto Naomi, Let me now go to the field, and glean among the ears of corn after him in whose sight I shall find favor.
You know,
And
that's
she
like,
said unto her,
it's also showing us how polite Ruth was. She didn't just come to a strange place and went out walking along the roadside, not knowing where she was or who she was among. She asked her mother-in-law, we don't have any food. Our land has not been plowed. Allow me to go out and reap, pick up things off the ground, which is gleaning in all across Africa. And people in the land of Israel had it as a law that a person who was poor could go and glean and pick things up that fell while the reapers were again harvesting and bringing in the harvest from the land. She is requesting Ruth to go and pick up things off the ground so that they can have food to eat. And her mother-in-law gives her permission. She doesn't go on her own. That's very important to see the relationship. She respects her as a mother, and she, again, is following her advice. And again, we're going to see that she happens to land by the hand of Yah in the very plot of land of a relative called Boaz. That name means in strength. Az is the word for strength. When you say Boaz, in strength, it was my father-in-law's name was Boaz. Every time I read this story, it reminds me of my father-in-law Boaz. And you'll get to see it. I mean, because you'll see right away that Boaz has an eye for the women. And my father-in-law was very good at recognizing the women out there. Beautiful. It says,
her, Go, my daughter. And she went, and came and gleaned in the field after the reapers. And her hap was so light on the portion of the field belonging unto Boaz, who was of the family of Elimelech.
not
And
only
behold,
hap. See, they say hap. That was the hand of Yah. It just so happened that Yah guided her to the field of Boaz. Yah is in their lives just like he's in our matters in our lives.
Boaz came from Bethlehem, and said unto the reapers, Jehovah be with you. And they answered him, Jehovah bless thee. Then said Boaz unto his servant that was set over the reapers, Whose damsel is
That
this?
girl over
And the
there.
servant
That's right.
that
We
was
want to
set
know. Who's that over there? That girl over there that's reaping. He's been among them, but look how he comes up. It seems as though the relationship between Boaz and the young workers is a good one because he asked them, he says, how you doing, guys? They said, we're doing well today. And he was the owner of the land. And they're treating him like, again, they're not just workers, but he's showing them respect. And it appears as though Boaz, if you look at it, you'll see he's older man, probably a middle-aged man. He's clearly not as young as the young men employed by him. And so Ruth falls in as one of those young persons. We'll see how this story develops. It says,
But over the reapers answered and said, It is a Moabitish damsel that came back with Naomi out of the field of Moab. And she said, Let me glean, I pray you, and gather after the reapers among the sheaves. So she came, and hath continued even from the morning until now, save that she tarried a little in the house.
in other words, that servant was watching her. Probably a lot of other young men watching her also. He even knows, he said, she's been reaping around. She came and asked permission because she followed the other young maidens and reaping the land, and I gave her permission. He said, and she's been working hard. She just went into the outhouse for just a little while. She wasn't in there long, and she came back and been reaping, and Boaz is now being filled in on it. And I'm sure if you read the story, you'll see between the lines, he had been told what Ruth had done for Naomi and for the deceased, how she said, your God will be my God, your people, my people. And so Boaz is touched by this and impressed, but he's more touched by her beauty and probably being a well-figured woman as well.
Then said Boaz unto Ruth, Hearest thou not, my daughter? Go not to glean in another field, neither pass from hence, but abide here fast by my maidens. Let thine eyes be on the field that they do reap, and go thou after them. Have I not charged the young men that they shall not touch thee?
In other words, I done told all the men, young men, do not bother her. He's even given us instructions. Watch how he just lays it out. He says, look, if you want to eat something, bread, you could come and sit with us, dip your bread in the vinegar and stuff. He said, he told the servant, he's going to say, look, I don't want y'all to bother her. If she takes stuff, don't make her feel embarrassed. And I want you to throw stuff down on purpose for her to pick it up so that she'll be, again, well taken care of. His heart seems to have an interest in her, and she is also touched by this act of kindness. 2 acts of kindness kindle a love affair, it seems as though. It says,
And when thou art athirst, go unto the vessels and drink of that which the young men have drawn.
don't just let anybody do that. He said, you're not a servant, like you go and get what you want.
Then she fell on her face and bowed down to the ground, and said unto him, Why have I found favor in thy sight, that thou shouldest take cognizance of me, seeing
That's a
I am
good
a
question.
foreigner?
When a guy starts to treat you nice, he's saying, why are you taking so kind to treat me like this? She wants to know why the special treatment. And he's going to be honest with it. What he said, honesty is the best policy. You want to get a woman, don't lie to her. Tell her the truth, how you feel. It says.
And Boaz answered and said unto her, It hath fully been told to me all that thou hast done unto thy mother-in-law since the death of her husband, and how thou hast left thy father and thy mother, and the land of thy nativity, and are come into a people that thou knewest not heretofore.
And so, what do you think about that when you reason? If we were to have a conversation, a discussion, would you not realize and say to yourself that Boaz looked at her heart and not only her body? He saw her mind, how she treated the mother-in-law, and turned her mind and say, no, I'm going with you. Your people be my people. Your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die, and I'll be buried there. And so he knew this woman has a different kind of spirit. See, that's what Yah knows. That's why I told you she was a stranger. She wasn't an Israelite, but she's going to be drafted into Israel, and it's going to be amazing to see how high in the nation of Israel this Moabite foreign stranger is going to be, because of her love of the Most High God she now is going to be drafted in and grafted in to the nation of Israel's genealogy. And this will continue. It's a message to mankind. It says,
recompense thy work, and be thy reward complete from Jehovah, the power of Israel, under whose wings thou art come to take refuge. Then she said, Let me find favor in thy sight, my Lord, for that thou hast comforted me, and for that thou hast spoken to the heart of thy handmaid.
that touched
Though
her heart. That got words, got her heart, got her mind. That's what it did. Because he really cared about her and was appreciative of her mind and her heart to do such a kind act. And again, she doesn't know it, but Boaz has already got his interest in it. She's done enough already. Because as I said, he sees that this is a woman. She's not an Israelite. And that's what touches her again. I'm a stranger and you're treating me this way. But in his eyes, she was a mother to be of Yah. And he saw her. And you got to realize this, the Moabites and the Israelites, the only way you would know them difference by culture. These are all people of color here, all Africa. No Europeans had not yet entered into the continent. And so that's why there's history between black people, just like an Egyptian and a Moabite Israelite. It's an Israelite in the country of Jordan called Moab. These are the sons of Lot. If you remember the history, Lot had two sons. And this is one of them, Moab, meaning from father. That's the meaning of his name. I'll give you a little other trivial history. When Bush Jr. dropped the bomb on Saddam Hussein, and if you remember, he named it Moab because Saddam, somebody had tried to kill his father before, and the attempt to do so did not work. So he said, this bomb is from father, and he named the bomb Moab. So I'm trying to tell you, you better know your history because these things happen, and if you know the Bible, you'll have a great understanding of what the man was talking about. It says,
I be not as one of thy handmaidens. And Boaz said unto her at mealtime, Come hither, and eat of the bread, and dip thy morsel in the vinegar. And she sat beside the reapers, and they reached her parched corn, and she did eat, and was satisfied, and left thereof.
you know, that's like an English you don't hear. Reached her parched corn. You know what it means. They passed some corn to her because she's not, see, the reapers don't sit down and eat with the staff and stuff. But Boaz has given her permission to be among the reapers. She's not just no ordinary person. See, when the boss likes you, you get privileges. And she's gotten to Boaz's heart, and the Most High is in this matter. And you can see it's a beautiful story of not just two people finding a mutual relationship and feeling the interest for one another, but it's the hand of Yah in kindness. Yah is going to repay her the kindness that she yielded out to her mother-in-law and to him by loving him and wanting to be a part of the nation of Israel. Chapter 3 takes us to another episode of this interesting barley season history. During the Chag Shavuot, the very season that we're observing here and around the world, this is a history that connects us and shows us that this was not just a law. We actually reaped and we observed these feasts, and we were centered around the harvest, and this is that very harvest. Third chapter begins on this wise.
And when she was risen up to glean, Boaz commanded his young men, saying, Let her glean even among the sheaves, and put her not to shame. And also pull out some for her of purpose from the bundles, and leave
Now
it.
you know
And let
that
her
is not
glean
no
and
reason.
rebuke.
Throw him out on purpose. He's pursuing her. He's got an interest and he wants her, and he's showing her kindness, and it's all clean if you look at it. Having a clean interest and going about it the right way to show kindness, and Yah is in the matter. He's a man apparently doesn't have a wife, and he may have had his wife deceased or what have you, not married, but you can see that This is a man who has wealth, property, land, and he's looking for a woman. And not necessarily outright looking, but she came past and he saw her when she came, Jehovah brought her in the midst. That's what a lot of people have to do. Just wait. And y'all bring somebody by your path, cross your path, and you have to just watch and decide. Remember, he looked for qualities, not just how she looked. This heart of this woman, her mind, was what he liked. And she was a hard worker. She didn't idle when she was out there gleaning. And he was told that. He's just checking out the qualities of the woman. She's doing the same. It goes on to say,
her not. So she gleaned in the field until evening, and she beat out that which she had gleaned, and it was about an ephah of barley.
that is not
And she
no
took it up.
Indian portion. That's 25 quarts. They usually have a little pouch. She had almost a sack. Because Boaz, as you see in a few lines, is going to say he laid it on her. Now, you know, that's a black person phrase. You don't find that in anybody's language. That's how you know it's about black people. It's going to say later on, and he laid it on her.
And went into the city. And her mother in law saw what she had gleaned. And she brought forth and gave to her that which she had left after she was satisfied. And her mother in law said unto her, Where hast thou gleaned today? And
Where have
where
you
wrought it?
been, daughter? Something's up. Her mother-in-law is wise. She knows this is not no gleaning portion. Where you been today, bud? Ruth, where you been at? And watch what Ruth tells
Thou? Blessed be he that did take knowledge of thee. And she told her mother in law with whom she had wrought, and said, The man's name with whom I wrought today is Boaz.
But when Ruth heard that name, when Naomi heard that name, she knew Yah is working. Because you're going to hear her words. She's going to speak it and say, He is not left off in helping the living or the dead. He didn't forget about me. She's getting hope again because she sees some good things possibly happen. And Ruth, she's not aware of the culture. Naomi has to guide her. That's why, again, daughters, you got to learn from this story. This young daughter listened to everything Naomi's telling Ruth, and she's going to follow the advice, and she's going to get the man too. Because Ruth have experience. Naomi got the experience to tell Ruth how to get the man. See, them mothers and them women who are older, they have experience. You got to listen to them sometimes. It says,
And Naomi said unto her daughter in law, Blessed be he of Jehovah, who hath not left off his kindness to the living and to the dead. And Naomi said unto her, The man is nigh of kin unto us, one of our near kinsmen.
not my kindred, because if you married my sons, this is our relative. He's a close relative, it says.
Ruth the Moabitess said, Yea, he said unto me, Thou shalt keep fast by my young men, until they have ended all my harvest. And Naomi said unto Ruth her daughter in law, It is good, my daughter, that thou go out with maidens, and that thou be not met in any other field. So she kept fast by the maidens of Boaz
That
to
was
glean.
good advice. She didn't want her to look like she's just going around with any man and seeking anybody she can get. Stay in this field. He's interested, he's treating you nice. It's a bad thing in Israel to be in too many men's fields. Just stay with this group right here. He's interested in you. You don't have to go anywhere else. Don't make yourself look bad. Tamshi.
Unto the end of barley harvest and of wheat harvest. And she dwelt with her mother in law.
Stayed right there, listened to everything that Naomi told her to do. She didn't go anywhere but to Boaz field every day for weeks. It might have lasted weeks. Remember, we just counted 7 weeks. She's been in that field until the end of the barley wheat harvest.
Chapter 3. And Naomi her mother in law said unto her, My daughter, shall I not seek rest for thee,
Now, if you don't,
that it may
that
be
means you got to read between the lines. That's clear as day. She said, Daughter, I'm going to help you get a man. Listen to me. And watch what you'll see. She's going to give her advice.
daughter, shall I not seek rest for thee, that it may be well with thee? And now is there not Boaz our kinsman, with whose maidens thou wast?
And crystal clear, I'm talking about Boaz. And you know, Ruth's eyes probably lit up because she definitely likes him. You can always see that, and he likes her. Come see.
Behold, he winnoweth barley tonight in the threshing floor. Wash thyself therefore, and anoint thee, and put thy raiment upon thee, and get thee down to the threshing floor. But make not thyself known unto the man, until he shall have done eating and drinking. And it shall be, when he lieth down, that thou shalt mark the place where he shall lie, and thou shalt go in and uncover his feet, and lay thee down, and he will tell thee what thou shalt do.
Don't go to the wrong place now. This is going to be a very clean type of courtship and introduction and interest and pursuit. What happened?
And she said unto her,
Mommy tells her simply, tonight, maybe you don't know it, but it's the end of the season. This is when they close out the barley and the wheat and the harvest. And they sort of have like a little party, eating and drinking and what have you at the end of the evening. So this is what I want you to do. You ain't going down tonight like you've been going to reap in the field before. You're gonna take a nice bath, wash up. You're gonna put on some nice perfume oils and make sure you're smelling nice. Very important. You're gonna look nice, make sure you dress up, put on one of them nice dresses that we have, and you be quiet and reserved. Don't try to flash yourself in front of him. Just look nice, be quiet, go sit in your little spot and what have you, but you gotta wait because in our culture, if a man lays down, and when he lays down at the harvest season and what have you, and you go and lay by his feet, don't go lay up there by his head, don't lay on him, lay down by his feet, and then you say these words you heard her say, uncover my feet, not uncover me, so don't get misunderstood. It's a custom, it's culture. By uncovering his feet, he now knows she's saying, I want you to play the role of a husband's brother. And we'll learn out what that means in Hebrew culture shortly. It's a law in the book of Deuteronomy, the 25th chapter. It says,
all that thou sayest unto me I will do.
she's
And she went down unto the threshing floor, and did according to all that her mother in law bade her. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry,
happy.
he went to lie down at the end of the heap of
He's
corn.
tired.
And she came softly and
Oh, I
uncovered his
like
feet.
that part of it too. She didn't step on his leg while she came over there. She, in other words, didn't make a lot of noise. He's resting. She approaches very softly, gently like a woman, and she lies down by his feet. And of course, a very important note too, she didn't just start talking to him while he's eating his meal. No, let him eat his meal, drink. When he lays down, he's chilling. You go quietly, get his attention that way. It says.
And laid her down. And it came to pass at midnight that the man was startled and turned
He's
himself.
shocked. What is this? A woman? But what's this? He's shocked. But again, when he sees who it is, that shock goes away and he's grateful. Oh boy, what does this? Let me see what this is all about. Because she done did the thing. Boaz gonna go right to the point, and he's gonna say, "Oh, by what you did, I know what that means." So just as Ruth told her Naomi told her what the custom was, Ruth knows now he's gonna make a proposal because that's what this is. The culture allows him to do that. Listen and see.
And behold, a woman lay at his feet. And he said, who art thou?
You know who
And
it
she
was. When he looked and saw, he knew just who it was. You know how sometimes God pray you didn't know who it was. Boaz knew just who it was. Nobody else was there that he had that interest. He had probably saw every part of her head to toe and knew that that was Ruth, if you know what I mean, brothers. Come see.
answered, I am Ruth, thy handmaid. Spread therefore thy skirt over my handmaid, for thou art a near kinsman. And he said, Blessed be thou of Jehovah, My daughter, thou hast shown more kindness in the end than at the beginning, inasmuch as thou didst not follow the young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, fear not. I will do to thee all that thou sayest. For all the men in the gate of my people do know that thou art a virtuous woman.
You're an honorable woman. Watch what he tells her to do. He tells her to go away before daylight and people look and see and get the wrong impression. You know how people talk, they just see you coming out and the next thing, oh, guess what they was doing it? Wasn't nothing happening at all. But that's what, he's smart enough to say, I don't want you to get a bad reputation. Come see.
And now it is true that I am a near kinsman, howbeit there is a kinsman nearer than I.
Somebody's in front of me. That's Boaz's problem. He's already been thinking all way ahead of the matter. He already knows there's somebody in front of me, but he's planning how he's got to figure out how to make this thing work out in a righteous manner. And of course, now they have come to a position where both of them are clear on what their feelings are. He's calling her a virtuous woman. She's laid down on his feet. He took his garment, which is probably a Cohane, a robe, and when he put that robe over her, that's a statement right there that says, hey, now I do want to be with you, I do want to marry you, and I will take the role of a husband's brother to raise up seed to his name, which is a culture. It's in the book of Deuteronomy 25. It goes like this. If a man dies and he have no son and no children, then his brother takes his brother's wife. Sometimes if he doesn't have a brother, it means when it says brother, as you can see here, it's a relative. It doesn't have to be a biological brother. It could be a cousin, an uncle. One of them marries the person so that she don't have to go and marry into another people and he don't have a name to carry on even though he died and never had a child. In our culture, our way of life, that was a practice, and they're practicing it in this episode of our history.
Tarry this night, and it shall be in the morning, that if he will perform unto thee the part of a kinsman, well, let him do the kinsman's part. But if he be not willing to do the part of a kinsman to thee, then will I do the part of a kinsman to thee, as Jehovah liveth. Lie down until morning.
In other
And she
words,
lay
let it finish that out so they can.
at his feet until the morning. And she rose up before one could discern another. For he said, let it not be known that the woman came to the threshing floor. And he said, bring the mantle that is upon thee, and hold it. And she held it, and he measured 6 measures of barley, and laid it on her.
Laid it on.
And she went into the city.
You know, that's black people talk. That's just how we talk. And that's what I'm trying to say. You have to understand this is in Africa, and this is our way we talk and jargon. And he said, take your skirt, you're gone, put it, he poured that barley and put that stuff, he laid it on her. That's right. So it's just again to understand we have a beautiful African history in the Bible, and this is one of those beautiful stories that's clean and beautiful to show you how decent we were, even in relationships, of starting relationships and all of that. And that's what we must learn from this, and how virtuous a woman can be, how honorable a man can be, and how he can take her in the right way and what have you. It's so important for us to get lessons, and that's perhaps why y'all put the story in the Bible. It goes on to say,
And when she came to her mother-in-law, she said, who art thou, my daughter? And she told her all that the man had
who
done to
art
her.
thou? What do you mean, who art thou? Ruth is lit up like a light bulb. She can see you are gleaming. You look like you in love, daughter. That's what Naomi sees. And so what happens is Ruth still got a little suspense in her heart because Boaz has shared what he said. Look, Ruth, he said, there's somebody in front of me, another closer cousin, maybe a first, some second cousin. And so I got to see what he's going to do first. But if he decides he ain't going to take you, I'm telling you before, yeah, I will. That's what he's telling her. And so again, the history goes on. She has to go back to her mother-in-law, to Naomi, and Naomi's listening, he's saying, Ruth, wow, you look so beautiful today, so different. And so she's starting to tell her that, there's somebody before me. And Naomi's letting her know, look, leave it in the hand of Yah. Be patient. But I can tell you this about Boaz. He will not let this matter rest until he find out, get an answer to this situation. So you ain't got to worry. He going to deal with this today. He won't be able to sleep. I know him. He ain't going to be able to sleep until he find out whether or not that other relative is going to take you or not. And just, you got to just trust in y'all, pray. Everything's going to be all right. Pray for the man if you want him. Ask God to be a part of the matter. You don't want to go by your own eyes and mind. Brothers or sisters, it says.
And she said, These 6 measures of barley gave he me. For he said unto me, Go not empty unto thy mother-in-law. Then she said, Sit still, my daughter, until thou know how the matter will fall. For the man will not rest until he hath finished.
You know what I love about this story? You always hear, and that's what I love about my own relationship with mother-in-laws, that they try to make you think in Western society that the daughter of her son and the mother, they don't get along. It's bad between mother-in-law and no, that's not in our culture. This daughter is not even considered to be a daughter-in-law. They have bonded spiritually. Their minds, their hearts have bonded. And that's what you have to understand. We're not that low people that we have become. This is how we were before we ever became Negroes and black people. And that's why I want you to read along with me this beautiful story in the Bible that's in Africa. African names, African language, African culture. And it's a beautiful story when you think about it. It says,
This day. Chapter 4.
He will not let it rest.
Now Boaz went up to the gate and sat him down there. And behold, the near kinsman of whom Boaz spoke came by.
Oh, yeah.
Unto whom he said,
Let's see what's going on here now so we all can travel through this journey of Ruth and end out the story getting understanding. Now we have another scene. Boaz has left his field. He's come to the gates of Bethlehem in the city, because that's in ancient cultures. Elders and men would gather like a town hall meeting, or they would decide matters that's going on. And so Boaz goes to the place where he knows all the men are passing through the gate to come in and out of the city. And he calls 10 of the men elders. He said, brethren, come sit here with me for a minute. And they all usually know that you want someone to be a witness of something. And he's looking for a particular guy everybody knows. Only person Boaz really wants to see is this other unnamed near kinsman. And so when he sees them, he says, oh, such a one, my brother. Come for a moment and let's see what the conversation will continue to be.
said, Ho, such a one, turn aside and sit down here. And he turned aside and sat down. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, Sit ye down here. And they sat down.
They're the witness.
He said unto the near kinsman, Naomi, that is come back out of the field of Moab, selleth the parcel of land, which was our brother Elimelech's. And I thought to disclose it unto thee, saying, Buy it before them that sit here and before the elders of my people.
Let's see how Boaz is conducting this matter. He calls the brother over. He says, look, have a seat here. He said, I wanted you to know, I want to disclose and be open with you. You may not know that Naomi's sons have died. And Ruth, who was married to Machlon, she's come back with Naomi and Ruth. And so their properties now are up for sale for somebody in the family, because remember, you got to be a Judite to buy that land, because in the Jubilee, the land has to go back to the tribe of Judah. So the only one could get his relatives in the tribes of Yehuda or the tribe of Judah. And so he's speaking to the other relative close, and he's letting them know, I want you to know that Naomi's back, Ruth came back with her, and he's giving a little piece of information at a time. Let's see how it plays out.
Redeem it. But If it will not be redeemed, then tell me, that I may know. For there is none to redeem it beside thee, and I am after thee. And he said, I will redeem it.
Let's stop
Then
there
said
now. Let's see
Boaz,
what he said. The near relative said, I will redeem it because it was land. And Boaz says, I want to know your position. Since you are in line ahead of me to buy the portion of land that belongs to Machlon, the husband of Ruth. And I want to know you're going to buy it. And he says, oh, land? Yeah, sure, I'll buy it. Now Boaz says, I got another little piece of information that goes on with this. And so he continues and he says,
what day thou buyest the field of the
when you
land
buy the
of the dead?
field,
Hast thou also bought of Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to raise up the name of the dead upon his
oh,
inheritance?
wait,
And the,
wait a minute. Run that by me again. Run that by me again. I didn't hear what you said, Boaz.
what day thou buyest the field of the
When you
land
buy
of
the
the dead?
field,
Hast thou also bought of Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead?
Moabites. What you talking about, Moabites? You mean it's a Moabites thing? And the dead, he had a wife? Oh, yeah. Watch what he says now.
To raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance? And the near kinsman said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I mar mine own
Now,
inheritance.
let's try to see if we can figure this out. First of all, he says, I cannot redeem it now. More than likely, I believe he's saying, I got a wife, home, and kids. And I'll have a problem if I go home telling her I just bought a field and got a wife too. So he says, no, I'm out of this one. It's all on you now, Boaz. You know Boaz been waiting to hear that. He's been sitting all day praying all night. And he's come up and he's told him and closed him, told him the truth about everything. The only thing is, the particular near kinsman said, no, I might get myself in trouble. It could have been something else. I don't know. I already have debts. I can't take on no more. I don't know what it is. But all I know, he said, I will not mar my own inheritance. And by mar, he means change it. I might lose it. Something could happen that I don't want to happen, and I could prevent it right now. My answer is no. I will not be buying the field, and I'm certainly not taking the wife of the dead, Ruth, to be my wife. So let's see what happens now.
Take thou my right of redemption on thee, for I cannot redeem it. Now this was the custom in former time in Israel
Now listen to
concerning
the
redeeming
culture.
and
This is
concerning.
the explaining the culture. It had changed somewhat. See, in Deuteronomy, what did it do? The woman whose husband refused to do it, she would untie his shoe and spit at his foot and what have you. Some people say spit in his face, but I doubt that. I think she spat before him and said, you won't perform the duty of a husband brother. And in this case, it's slightly different. It's not a husband brother, but he's going to also, again, untie his shoe to say, I release the right, it says.
Kinsman said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I mar mine own inheritance. Take thou my right of redemption on thee,
You're
for
next,
I
but
cannot
you have the
redeem
right.
it. Now this was the custom in former time in Israel concerning redeeming and concerning exchanging. To confirm all things, a man drew off his shoe and gave it to his neighbor. And this was the attestation in Israel. So the near kinsman said unto Boaz, buy it for thyself. And he drew off his shoe. And Boaz said unto the elders and unto the people, ye are witnesses this day, that I have brought all that was Elimelech's and all that was Kilon's and Malon's
I
of the hand of
see
Naomi.
that those 10 men, those elders that were in that city and sitting down, he brought them there for a purpose. He got 10 witnesses. So if that near kinsman's come back tomorrow and say, my wife said it was okay, or change his mind, it's too late now. He got 10 witnesses. They've already sealed the deal, it says.
Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, have I acquired to be my wife, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance, that the name of the dead be not cut off from among his brethren, and from the gate of his place.
You can
Ye are
see
witnesses this day.
Then
And all the people that were in the gate and the elders said, We are witnesses.
let's listen to what the elders said because we're bringing this history to a close. It has come
Yahweh
down to a beautiful end, as we can all see. The near kinsman has refused to buy the field and also to take the wife of the deceased to raise up children or son in his name. And now, of course, those elders are going to give their blessing. That's another part of our culture. Mothers and fathers and grandfathers, grandmothers, they can put a curse on a child or a blessing. And they're going to give a blessing to this righteous union that they have been witnessed a part of, and watch what they say. And it's going to come to pass. Let's just see.
make the woman that is come into thy house like Rachel and like Leah, which two did build the house of Israel, and do thou worthily in Ephrath, and be famous in Bethlehem. And let thy house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore unto Judah, of the seed which Jehovah shall give thee of this young woman.
All of this history
So
is in the
Boaz
book of Genesis, Bereshit, where we can see how Yehuda went and took Tamar and Zerah and Pharez was the one that built up the house of Judah, if you understand it. And that's what they're saying. They knew the history. They're going all the way back 1,400 years before Europeans came into Africa. They're going back hundreds of years and acknowledging the birth of Israel and also of the tribe of Judah, one of the tribes of Israel, Yehuda. It goes on as we close out to say.
took Ruth, and she became his wife. And he went in unto her, and Jehovah gave her conception, and she bore a son. And the woman said unto Naomi, Blessed be Jehovah, who hath not left thee this day without a near kinsman, and let his name be famous in Israel. And he shall be unto thee a restorer of life, and a nourisher of thine old age. For thy daughter in law, who loveth thee, who is better to thee than 7 sons, hath borne him. And Naomi took the child and laid it in her bosom.
Man, that mother Ruth is a happy woman again. It's like she got back a husband and a son through the graciousness of Yah, joined and bonded by love for each other, a daughter-in-law and a mother-in-law. Their mutual righteous thoughts and actions at a time of tragedy returned Yah's love and favor to them both. This is a lesson of how an unfortunate, untimely loss of loved ones. Naomi lost her husband, her 2 sons. She gained a daughter-in-law that became a daughter, and her 2 daughter-in-laws also lost their husband, Maklon and Kilion, and she was hurt for them as well. A good, beautiful woman, Ruth, Naomi. Orpah's decision to return to her people and to her God, the idol gods, while Ruth, a Moabitess woman, a stranger, foreigner, learned from Naomi's her pleasant ways about the true and living power, Jehovah Zevaot, the creator of heaven and earth. And whereas her sister-in-law chose idols, she chose Yah. And what a great blessing. Ruth, again, have a book called the Book of Ruth. And this is why she's in the Bible, because of this kindness, this heart, this love for Yah. Yah honored this great Moabite woman, a stranger whom the Creator grafted, and her offspring turned out to be Obed, who was the father of Jesse, called Yishai, and the father of David, king of Israel. These are the generations of Yehuda that came from Pharez right up to King David as we end out this beautiful African history. And again, the lessons therein.
Became nurse unto it. And the women her neighbors gave it a name, saying, There is a son born to Naomi. And they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David. Now these are the generations of Perez. Perez begot Hezron, and Hezron begot Ram, and Ram begot Aminadab, and Aminadab begot Nahshon, and Nahshon begot Salmon, and Salmon begot Boaz, and Boaz begot Obed, and Obed begot Jesse, and Jesse begot David.
Yes, beautiful, beautiful story. I want to thank Atarabat Amram for reading the book of Ruth. I felt that a woman's voice and a female would add to the beauty of the story. I hope it did for you. And I hope that you learned some of the beautiful lessons. I want to thank all of those who handle the technology. Again, they're here. You don't hear them often. Our brother Mensa and our brother Dawood and Misharet, Shemuel, and I hope I didn't leave out anyone. I have all our drummers. Here's too many of them to name. You know, Yivareka Yahu, Misharet Gabriel, and of course, all the Levites that play their roles. These are all the men that work with me and are part of this order. And again, to all that is national body that we're going to one day hear Ruth, I hope you enjoy it and learn something from it. Toda Rabah.
And they should put my name upon the children of Israel, and I bless them. Sing among Israel, so Namidia Mishira one family to among Israel, so Namidia Mishira